every time I attack an arm placement by my guy, the best time to do it is when he's overcommitted to that placement. So we're going to talk about if he's choking my neck. Somebody's like got tunnel vision and they want to choke you. We're going to talk about sort of a headlock type thing. We're going to talk about a few different options, but all of them are a commitment of some sort. If I swim for this arm and he picks it up, like, was that hard to pick up? Nope. Yeah, and he might even want to be punching me. I mean, it depends on the scenario too. So if I'm going to have him overcommit to his hands, I have to include the detail before I do all the regular ones. I have to include the detail that I'm bridging. If I'm bridging, you can pick this hand up maybe still, but you can't pick up both. Right? So there's a commitment. And I need that commitment or I'm going to do this all day and he's going to pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. So step one, I'm going to lift my hips and keep my elbows at my sides. That's so that his knees don't slide up into my armpits when I do that. Yeah, keep his knees down there and lift my hips. Now the hands are committed. Now is a good time to swim. I'm going to swim through from the inside, like past my ear, I say. I'm going to turn my thumb over and I'm going to crash through his joint. So I don't just wrap around his upper arm or his lower arm. That's not good. I want my elbow to crash through his elbow, like this. And then I'm going to hold his shoulder blade. What I don't do is I don't put my hand between us. I can wrist lock myself when we roll. It's not good. It's not a good move. So step one, commit his hands. Step two, swim past your ear and crash through the arm. Hold the shoulder blade just to keep him here. Now I can trap this foot. By the way, my hips are still off the ground for the whole move. Trap his foot on the same side as the arm, and that just means step outside of it. And now I'm going to look over my shoulder before I go. And to help us fall this way when I bridge, I'm not only going to just bridge over here, I'm also going to draw a big rainbow with this finger here. Like this. As soon as I land, I'm trying to get to my knees, like the shin side of my knees where I'm kneeling upright. And this is a real good habit right here. Just block that bicep as soon as we land. And then I can block the other one if I intend to sit up and do whatever I do next, whether it's passing or it's a fight. I'm going to keep my elbows low to keep his knees where they are and bridge. Right? Now that his hands are committed, I'm going to come through, turn my thumb over and crash through, hold this, block this, look before you go. To the point of even side bending away from where you're going to go. Big look. And then bridge, roll this over. This right here is a good habit. Block the bicep. Block the other bicep. Now I can think about getting my posture to hit him back or open his guard to get away that way or to pass his guard. To get the best bridge I can, just to focus first on my hips. I can get my hips, a certain height, and I really want to get my hips as high as I can. And I'll tell you why in a second. But I really need them as high as possible. And the best way to get them as high as possible is to get my feet all the way under, if I can, my hips. And now I get much more height. So if for some reason your trap and roll isn't working, these are the things to check. Check your bridge first. Am I getting my feet as close to my butt as possible for a higher bridge? And then I want to talk about elbows. What does a good bridge do? Well, a good bridge lifts his hips up, as we know, and makes him fall forward. But it only does that if I'm also blocking his knees, because he falls forward only when his hip bone comes in front of his knee bone. So we always have to think about the other person's skeleton. But he won't fall forward until that happens. So if I lift my hips, but this stays behind the knee, like your knees slide up in my armpits, for example, I can lift him as high as I want. But his hips stay behind his knee. And this brings into focus the importance of having our elbows keep the knees where they are. I do that usually by having the tip of my elbow at the tip of his knee, the northmost point of his knee, whatever that is. Might be kneecap on some people, might not. But I'm trying to keep him as far down as possible, because if I do that and get a good bridge, his hips come in front of his knee, and he would fall without putting posts down. And then I start getting things I can count on, overcommitments from his hands that I can count on being there. Okay? And I think elbows are probably the most under-respected part of trap and roll, and the reason I can get it sometimes when other people can't is because I'm not just bridging. I have my elbows down, and I'm almost tractioning my shoulder out to push his knees even further down. So I get the maximum effect of him leaning forward. It's possible that he puts his hands like maybe it's just above the top of my head. So when I do this, he catches himself here. Now, this is way harder to swim. I can't break that down. So I have to have a different course of action for that. When his hands land there, and I realize, no, this is going to be futile. I'm not gonna go in here because that's weak. I'm gonna go around the outside, and this hand's gonna come in and pull this hand in. So this one goes around the outside, palm up. I reach up and I pull it to my chest. Usually there's going to be like that bend in the elbow where the elbow bends. I'm going to pull him to my chest. And now, just so that I've got good control over elbow and hand, which is a sort of type of control for me that's very good, I'm going to bring his hand across the body, and then I'm going to turn my hand and block the elbow. The reason that this grip right here isn't as good as this one with my thumb on the outside here of his arm is because this makes a tunnel that he can pull his arm backwards out of. He can tear his arm out. That's obviously bad for me in a punching situation. So when his hands landed here, I went outside palm up, and I used the other one very briefly. It's an arm exposure here, but very briefly to pull this in, and then pull this across. And now my elbows are back to my sides, and I'm going to hold around behind his tricep so he can't just pull it out the tunnel. And I'm attaching it to my body, and everything else is going to look like a trap and roll as we've done. Trap his foot, look over my shoulder like a big look, like a look so big that I'm side bending to see higher. And then I'm going to bridge and roll. No rainbow on this one. The wrist and elbow control is sufficient. And when I land, boom. Okay, the other place that he could put his hands when they hit the ground, not next to my ears or over my head, is even further over my head. And sometimes this might be a very tall person, or way out to the side. Let's say you put him way up at the corner. So when I bridge him, he just, and the other difference in his body shape when we do this one is usually his hips come off me, and all of his weight kind of goes to his hands. Boom. And his hips are off me because it helps him reach further. Okay, so if this happens, now I'm actually able to put my hips down because he's committed. He's committed his hips forward. So I don't need to be doing my hips up the whole time. I can just do the next first step on my escape, which is going to be bring my head toward, aim it toward one of his hands. So I might go this way, I might go this way. But when I aim it toward one of his hands, it gets a little easier to reach it. And I'm going to grab a hold of his hand, 2 C grips on his wrist, and I'm going to draw a circle with it to my chest. So the question only is, do I do a circle this way outside, or do I do a circle this way, like toward his other arm? And it's the second one.
Yeah.
So I bring his arm this way, but to dislodge his hand from the ground, this happens in a few places in jiu-jitsu where somebody posts on the ground, I want to get rid of the post. Always the easiest way to get a post on the ground dislodged is toward the fingers. So I'm going to go toward the fingers and in a circle this way. Like that. I draw that circle, it comes right to my chest. I can block the tunnel, step on the foot, look over my shoulder, and roll into top position here. So again, this time he posts way over my head. His hips come off my hips. Yeah, it gives him that height. Off center your head. 2 C grips. Dislodge, which is always in the direction of his fingertips. Dislodge it and go in a circle to the inside. This way. And then attach it to me. I already have my wrist grip, and I just need my tricep grip. Drop the foot, look, and go. When I bridge, he's going to put his hands up so high and so far from me, that I'm going to bring my head over here and I'm going to be like, man, I'm not sure I can even reach that. Okay? And there is a time when the best escape goes from being a trap and roll to being maybe something else. One of the best times to do an elbow escape, just as an aside, a related aside, is when his weight is off his legs. And this is a really good time to do an elbow escape. Because Tyler's not super light, and I'm not super big or strong, but his leg weighs nothing now. When he has gone so far forward that his posts are like out of reach, that's a great time to elbow escape. Maybe even take the back, because that post is so high. Okay? So I want you guys to know that we don't run out of options as the arm gets further away. Our options just change, and it's the elbow escape that we really want to be thinking about next. This is a detail for when your legs are longer than the other person's. So I'm going to show it first, but then I'm going to let Joe do it to show you, because his legs are long enough that trying to trap this foot can be hard, because as soon as he starts to bridge, the foot becomes free, right, on somebody with shorter legs. Let's say we've done one of these, start here. If his foot is barely in reach for me because of length or flexibility, then I can do this instead. So I'm pointing my knee in the direction I'm going to go, and I'm actually sort of palming the top of his foot with the bottom of mine. So I'm here, and I'm tucking that in there. So do you feel like you can pull that out?
No.
No. This is a good pin. Even if I just do this, if I have a big, heavy leg, it's going to be enough to keep the person there. But this is beautiful. Just jam it in there. Okay. So let me have you do it, because your legs are longer than mine. Where you might trap my arm. But trapping my foot might be hard for him, because I can get it up here, and that's difficult. If you can aim your knee where it's going, and just put weight on my leg with your leg. Yes. Yeah, that's enough that I can't shoot my foot out to catch myself, for sure. And now you just look where you're going. You get that roll going. Yeah.